the workforce, actually, it is a global problem, and the pressures, for ageing populations and increasing technology and all these sort of things, they're global. They don't just relate to us in the UK. And WHO says that globally we are short of 18 million health professionals, doctors, nurses, pharmacists, physios, others. And so there's no way we can quickly move from huge shortage of healthcare professionals to adequate number of healthcare professionals. We're always going to be playing catch up. I'm sure you're aware, 4 years, 3-4 years to train a nurse, 9 years in the UK to train a doctor to be a GP, the same or longer for specialists. So, just training professionals is not going to be the solution to this problem. So let's look at the possible contribution of pre-primary care supported by AI, and I'm going to talk to you in the context of Healthily, which is the self-care web platform and app. Okay. So basically, in Healthily, we aim to address these questions. So if you have a symptom, develop something wrong, the two basic things to ask are, what do I need to do and what do I need to know? Okay? And those are fairly simple questions that are quite difficult to address, actually. We're all very familiar with using search engines. Put something like a headache, a fatigue into Google, and you'll get 39 million plus returns. And it's not personal to you. It was nothing else other than you put in headache and fatigue. And it's actually the same with a lot of the big health information sites. And they're very good at giving you an article about a specific thing, but it's very focused on that thing, and it doesn't necessarily relate to the problem that you have. And I think underpinning these questions, what do I need to know, what do I need to do, basically, is this something I can deal with myself, or do I need to see someone about this? So this sort of sums up sort of where we are at the moment. Someone might feel unwell or have a question about particular symptoms. They look at Google, they look at sites, they'll ask their mum. In my family, they ring me up. That's a bit different because I am actually a doctor. And then the next step for most people, and certainly in the UK, is to attempt to access, or in fact access the GP. Doctor's the only option often to be able to adequately address the questions. And somewhere between 20-40% of problems that are seen in general practice are problems that can be dealt with by self-care. The issue is you don't know whether this is something you can deal with yourself or not. Often you need somebody to say, you can deal with this yourself. So being able to, to have the support, to have a reasonable feel, supported decision, I think this is something I can deal with myself, it is a real step forward. And actually, we all do self-care. There's vastly more symptoms or problems we do deal with. I'll use an example. Indigestion. You might get some indigestion, some heartburn, but the vast majority of people, they'll take some, Tums, or they'll drink a glass of milk, or they'll wait a few hours, it's gone away, that's it, okay, fine. It maybe doesn't go away, they might see a pharmacist, they might phone up and ask their mum or whatever, you're still in the self-care there. But this symptom persists, might get worse, there might be other symptoms. at which point you very reasonably want to see a GP, or a doctor, or a healthcare professional. And you may then be told, actually fine, it's simple indigestion, you can deal with this yourself, this is what you need to do. Or the doctor might think, maybe we should check this out a bit more, might want to give you a course of treatment and see what happens, might want to do some investigations. If you're unlucky, they could find actually something significant underlying the symptom of indigestion. You could be referred to secondary care. If you're really unlucky and you've got something pretty bad or rare, you'll end up in tertiary care, but that's going to be very few people. But the point of this is just to show the vast area that there is in self-care and pre-primary care, that people aren't very well supported at the moment. If you're in the roots there, often there's not a lot of support for you in terms of dealing with your symptoms. So let's look under the bonnet of Healthily. I hope you can see that all right, because I can't. Put my glasses on, there we go. Right, so Healthily, I will say we are a class 1 medical device, registered medical device, in terms of what Rajesh was talking about earlier. And this sort of shows you the way in which the system, the AI system in Healthily deals with an issue. So if we're talking about symptoms, on the web platform or app, there's a smart symptom checker. It's smart because it's powered by our AI. So the user has a problem. I'm using the example of indigestion. So they might put in their symptoms, whatever they might be. There's natural language processing, there's spell check function, semantic concept extraction, all this clever stuff. So basically the users describe their issues in their own words. And then the next step, the AI then asks the most important and useful questions in relation to those symptoms. The AI in Healthily is a Bayesian engine, and I'm sure you all know what that means, clearly, like me. So I will read you out what a Bayesian engine is, because I think that would be helpful. It is a method, Bayesian inference is a method of statistical inference in which Bayes' theorem is used to update the probability for a hypothesis as more evidence or information becomes available. So in this context, the user is putting in information about some symptoms, and then the AI is then asking more questions, and it's getting more information. It's extracting positive information. It's also ruling things out. So there might be a whole bunch of things that the AI will ask, and the person replies no. So you've got your positive, these are all the things that are going on, and these are all the things that aren't going on. As opposed to black box machine learning, where very clever things are going on inside the box, and nobody knows, basically, why the AI comes out with a particular recommendation. You throw data in, you get a recommendation out, but you can't follow it. It's different with the Bayesian engine. We can explain every recommendation. That's quite an important safety feature, and we might want to talk about that later. We're asking questions. The probabilities are being calculated. At this point, I'll say we very clearly see we are not making diagnoses here. And whether or not they say it or not, most, if not all, chatbots can't or shouldn't attempt to make a diagnosis. A diagnosis generally relies more on history alone, which effectively is what you're getting from the chatbot. So we're not looking to give a diagnosis, we're looking to provide users with information about the likely things that could be going on, and there might be several. Okay? In addition, we use what we call red flags. So in the example of the indigestion symptoms, if the symptom checker establishes that this person also has crushing chest pain and breathlessness, you go no further. These are serious symptoms. You need to get help straight away. Okay, so there are red flags which are based on evidence, they're based on NICE recommendations, and they're built into the system, and they're an important safety feature. And skip the next one, really covers what we've already said. But the most important thing we feel from what we give to users is what's the appropriate thing to do. So it goes back to the original question, is this something I can deal with myself, or do I need to get help for this? If I need to get help, is that routine? Is it urgent? Is it an emergency? Do I need an ambulance? So we think that the most important thing and the safest thing you can do for people is to make a recommendation on the next steps based on the information that they've given and based on the evidence that underpins the EI. I mean, the evidence that goes into this is absolutely huge, and I'm sure you can imagine. Right, so, for time, not too bad. So basically, that's helpful. I hope you find that interesting, happy to discuss. But I'd like also to say a few words on a concept which is often called the democratisation of healthcare. So basically that means, insofar as possible, putting the ability to look after your health into your hands. That only goes so far, but going so far could make quite a significant contribution, as I've already argued, in terms of pressures on the health system. And do we really think that cyber natives, millennials and younger generations, are they going to access healthcare, and are they going to look after health in the way in which we do now? Phone up or online, or try and get an appointment, or wait, whatever, or not going to happen. If you're managing everything else in your life on your personal device, why is health going to be different? So there's clearly a move in this direction. And just a question, how many of you have got wearable devices? Yeah, probably about half. So this happens to be a Fitbit, some of you will have Apple Watches, some of you will have Garmin, and various things. I just point out that Apple launched the first smartwatch in 2014, okay? That is within living memory, in fairness. It's not that long ago. Actually, within 24 hours, the Apple smartwatch was the highest selling luxury watch, the biggest market share within 24 hours. A luxury watch being designed as a watch that cost $200 or more. So there was a sort of instantaneous difference just in the introduction of the Apple Watch. And 8 years on, and by the way, I'm not using Apple, and other smart watches, etc., are available. But 8 years on, Apple and other companies now have software registered as medical devices. And this relates to the cardiac tracing, it relates to blood oxygen levels, and various other physiological measurements. That you can link your smartwatch with another device to take and monitor blood pressure, for instance. So really things are, as I say, 8 years, and I've moved from a smartwatch to what they're doing now. In another 8 years, goodness knows. So there's huge developments there. And it's easy to envisage that people in the near future will collect and monitor their own health data. They will, I submit, use smart symptom checkers or similar devices to answer their questions. Is this something I can deal with? Do I need to get help? If so, where do I go to for the help? If I need to know more, how do I get that? What do I need to find out? What are the important things to look out for that lets me know that actually this is getting worse and I need to take action? So, finally, my point is that AI is already underpinning these developments. There will be more, they will get smarter. I believe we will always need doctors, nurses, hospitals, generalist services in the community, but they can and should be supported by the technology. And for me, it's only a good thing if people have more ownership of their issues, their health, their conditions, and be supported to look after themselves as best they can. And I also think that when we get to that position, it will allow us to use our clinical workforce, our infrastructure, our medication. It will enable us to use the systems that we have more efficiently. So that's what I'm hoping for as I get older and get more of these problems. And let's see how it goes. Thank you.